What is one of the most important questions that needs to be answered for XRP right now? What is holding back the XRP ledger and how do we fix it? Whose responsibility is it? I have a ton of information on this. We also are going to take a look at security on the XRP ledger and how that's being addressed. We also see that Ripple Treasury joins Swift certified program. What's that going to mean? We also see that Ripple Prime gets an official BBB rating from the Global Credit Agency. What is that going to do for Ripple, XRP, RLUSD going forward? And I also have a ton of other news here. We got a report here at the end from the IMF on tokenization is reshaping regulated finance by moving assets onto programmable ledgers. That is, in fact, could be the XRP ledger. We're going to talk about all of it. Let's start here, though.
This question's for all of you, so we'll kind of go around. What's the one thing you think that is holding the XRPL back from its next major growth phase, and whose job is it to fix it?
I can go first. Fresh on my mind, actually. I would say liquidity is the biggest thing. I don't think the things that I'm trying to do are getting ahead of, business coming and more traffic and more attention. But the thing that's not holding us back. We're processing every transaction that's sent to the ledger right now. We have no issue. We have no issue with that. We don't have super high fees spiking because we have too many transactions. I'm trying to get ahead of that so it never happens, but it's certainly not a blocker. Liquidity is the blocker. And again, just like bringing more users to the ledger, this is one of those macro things that the foundation can do, and it will help everybody in the community. And why this was not, liquidity was certainly not in the original mandate for the foundation. I think it's probably a combined role, and I'm working closely with Ripple to look at this. I think the foundation's role is more in the line of being the expert on the XRP ledger and how it works. And an example of that being, you don't need to make a lot of liquidity on the XRP ledger between one stable coin and another. You make liquidity between the stable coin or any asset and XRP. And the ledger automatically bridges through that. And so you get this virtual order book that includes connections from every asset to each other, as long as they have that connection to XRP. So I think the funding to bring in market makers to do this kind of thing, would probably come from Ripple or some sort of partner that they encourage to do this. But I think the ledger and the community helps here by educating these people on the right way to do this on the XRP ledger, different than every other ledger out there. This is where we have, the non-fragmented liquidity on the ledger and a huge advantage over other blockchains if it's done right. And this is, I can't send you that magic payment that automatically goes from American dollars to Aussie dollars over the ledger, using XRP as a bridging currency if there's no liquidity there.
Got it. Liquidity is very important. So you get more liquidity on the XRP ledger by one, making it profitable and easy to provide, and two, plugging the XRP ledger into big existing liquidity venues like banks, treasuries, centralized exchanges, stablecoins, and real world assets. Core on ledger levers: push AMM plus DEX usage. XLS30 native AMMs are now live alongside the order book, DEX, and share routing, so swaps will automatically use AMMs and order books or both for the best price. The more volume through the pools, the more LP fees and the more capital that stays parked on the XRP ledger. Optimize LP returns. The XRP ledger AMM is a protocol level, no smart contract, low fee, fast finality, and includes the continuous auction mechanism that routes arbitrage revenue back to LPs to offset impairment loss. That's a strong sell to market makers if you can show real APY from live pools. UX. Front ends and SDKs, the protocol is there. What's missing is great interfaces and abstractions, so LPs don't have to understand AMM create or AMM deposit, AMM withdrawal, and complex routing. A Uniswap-quality UI plus API specifically for the XRP Ledger AMM DEX would directly attract both retail and bots. Interesting. I wonder if anyone is working or making on that. It says on-demand liquidity corridors. Every corridor Ripple turns on. ALUSD, EUCV, EURCV needs liquidity stablecoin XRP fiat routes. Incentivizing those corridor pairs on AMM and DEX aligns with Ripple's own product map and gives them a reason to seed pools or steer flow to the ledger. Ripple's institutional stack, post hidden road, GTreasury, Rail. Ripple controls a big chunk of Ripple Prime, Treasury, and stablecoin rails with trillions in annual clearing volume potential. That's the best deep pocket source for XRPL liquidity if you make AMM DEX the first class venue for their stack, which I think they're trying to do, right? I think that's one of the goals. Concrete strategies here to attract the liquidity, boost rewards on pools like XRP RLUSD, XRP RLUSD, and other stables that sit in ODL routes, coordinate with Ripple and issuers so they can publicly highlight preferred liquidity pools on the XRP ledger to support their clients, market XRPL AMM to pro market makers, lead with protocol level security, no smart contract exploits, low fees, no MEV, front running, NLP auction rebates, give them APIs, reference bonds, and maybe in the RFQ layer so they can run hybrid strategies like Claude plus AMM plus off-ledger arbitrage. You can plug into stablecoin rails and real-world assets, encourage tokenized treasuries like RLUSD and other assets to use XRPL's AMM, their priority liquidity venue instead of only centralized exchanges, and build single asset vaults, manage LP strategies, and so much more. I just wanted to take a look at what are some of the other things that can be done right now to move this along a little bit more quickly. And I hope that was beneficial to get that additional information. Now let's move to this clip. Security on the XRP ledger is the top priority.
I would say at the current time, besides, being in a building phase of the foundation, the top priority of the foundation is around security. So I probably don't have to tell anybody on this call that we've had some bugs recently, and that happened while we were in this process. I think 1 week after I came on, we had a major bug, and that has kind of shifted my priorities. I sort of feel like if I'm talking about anything else but security, people are going to be like, why aren't you talking about security? So I am not going to ignore everything else. I'm still going to work on documentation of all the other things that I want to get done. But I think that security has taken the top seat, and the foundation wants to add to that, not take over security from anybody, but add to diversify, how we're looking at the ledger and the security around it.
All right, let me continue here. I wanted to show you this. Ripple Treasury joins Swift Certified Partner Program. Here is the application. You can see provider GTreasury and all of the information there too. You even have the contact numbers here. That's pretty interesting to see all of this stuff laid out here. I wanted to understand what this actually means. It means Ripple now owns a Swift Certified Treasury software provider, but it's not the same thing as XRP is now plugged into Swift directly. The image is a standard Swift compatible application profile 2025 for GTreasury SS LLC, listing its Swift messaging coverage formats, MT and ISO, and regions. This profile just says GTreasury app meets Swift technical and operational requirements and in the Swift certified program. These profiles exist so many vendors, Oracle and others, they certified the software interface to Swift, not many blockchain or assets behind it. Where Ripple comes in on October 2025, Ripple acquired GTreasury for about $1 billion explicitly to enter the corporate treasury market with its digital asset infrastructure. Commentaries on the deal note that because GTreasury is a Swift compatible Swift certified provider, Ripple effectively gains direct Swift access to bank connectivity and infrastructure. Ripple has since announced Ripple Treasury with integrations and GTreasury systems with Ripple's blockchain and corporates, so they can manage both fiat and digital assets in one platform. And so is XRP connected to Swift now? Yes, indirectly at the infrastructure level, Ripple now controls a Swift certified GTreasury platform, and that talks natively to Swift via Alliance L2 and related interfaces. That means any future Ripple solution, potentially including XRP as a bridge asset, can be offered through software that banks and corporates already use for Swift messaging without Ripple itself having to go through Swift certification from scratch. But there's no public proof yet of production XRP over SWIFT flows. Just want to be clear. And we have seen at least 25 of 50 leading banks SWIFT is collaborating in their payment scheme, and their new framework has been working with Ripple in the past. And so there's a big list here. We've shown that quite some time. Let me play this though. Let me go through this. Ripple Prime officially gets bank grade BBB rating from the Global Credit Agency. Ripple has officially announced that the Ripple Prime has received an investment grade bank issuer rating from BBB by the biggest global credit rating agency, Kroll. This is the same level of rating traditionally given to major banks and trusted financial institutions, signaling strong financial health, stability, and execution, meaning big players, banks, funds, and partners can now treat Ripple Prime as a serious, trusted counterparty. Ripple Prime just got a TradeFi validation, and here is that validation. I wanted to take a look and get some more information here. It means Ripple Prime just got an investment grade credit rating from a mainstream Wall Street agency, which is a solid mid-tier good rating rather than an elite top tier. So it's a good rating. It's not an elite top tier. Let's just be clear. How good is BBB from KBRA? KBRA classifies BBB and above as investment grade, which is in the same bucket as traditional banks, brokers, and corporates need to be in to be considered solid counterparties. In KBRA's own language, a BBB entity solution condition is good and is likely to meet its obligations, though it is more vulnerable in severe stress than an A or double A. So not being the best like A, AA, or AAA, but clearly across the line from speculative junk. So there's obviously 3 levels higher that Ripple could get to. And right now it is basically kind of good. I wouldn't say average, but it's good. All right. I guess better than C. Oh man. But it does look like there's a lot of progress that can be made here. KBRA assigned BBB issuer ratings to Ripple's Prime's holding company and main operating subsidiary, explicitly pointing to strong capital backing from Ripple in cash and large XRP reserves and early profitability from the brokerage. The rating reflects Ripple Prime's growing balance sheet to tens of billions in assets financed and cleared, and its matched principal risk control business model rather than a prop trading shop taking wild bets. And so let me just move to this. XRP equals a Bitcoin for banks uses with traditional finance. There is a strong business case that distinguishes a trade finance as is thought of as a digitizing a process will allow cross-border payments to be made faster, more securely, and efficiently. And that can be all made possible by the use of a blockchain and other distributed ledger technology. Ripple is the ideal suited for this use in TradeFi, and it was specifically built to support cross-border payments and international transactions, a Bitcoin for banks, if you will. A movement toward using technology has already begun with major banks across the globe trialing distributed ledger technology, which Ripple is a major part of. Now, there was a huge hack here, and Circle was called out by Zach XBT. I don't know if this would help Ripple or RLUSD in any way, but here is the post here. So Jeremy Allaire on the 31st said 2 things are evolving. How value moves and gets done explains the connectivity and why this matters. As Zach says, Circle was asleep while many millions of USDC was being swapped via CCTP from Solana to Ethereum. For hours, the 9-figure hack during the US hours was happening and nothing was done. Value was moved and nothing was done yet again. Comes days after they froze 16 business hot wallets incompetently, which is being slowly unfrozen. And he's saying Circle, Jeremy Allaire, USDC are bad actors to the industry. So Zach actually called them bad actors. It says update the 230 million plus USDC bridged via CCTP from Solana to Ethereum across 100 transactions. 6 hours is how long Circle had to freeze the stolen funds. The $280 million drift hack. Circle is a centralized stablecoin issuer headquartered in New York, and the attack began about 12 p.m. Eastern time. Why does our industry allow them to stay silent? So I guess during business hours, Circle was asleep at the wheel here and did nothing. It is pretty crazy. And here is all of the assets that were stolen. As you can see, USDC was the top asset, $71 million here. And then you got USDT, USDY, and a lot of other tokens. This is a massive hack happening on Solana. And man, you know, if you are building on one of these L1s, right, you're looking at hacks and security and wondering, hey, is what I'm putting on this protocol safe? You know, there's always issues with some of these connectors into some of these platforms. You just got to be careful that you're doing the due diligence. And even when you do the due diligence, sometimes things happen. All right. The incident of the hack of Solana-based Drift protocol has nothing to do with XRP. Somebody from my community asked me if this involved XRP. It does not. Drift protocol is a DeFi perp DEX on Solana, was exploited on April 1st, 2026, with attackers draining around $270 to $285 million in users' funds across multiple tokens. Security researchers report that the attack used a fake token, CVT, manipulated Oracle prices, and abused a compromised admin key. Security Council powers to raise withdrawal limits and drain vaults in a series of rapid transactions. The team halted deposits and withdrawals after detecting an active attack, and then Drift token price fell over 40% in TVL by more than half. So that is pretty crazy to see, but that is what's happening behind the scenes. Now, there was also this GTreasury API integration with PNC Bank is a game changer for corporate finance. Let me play it. Look at this flow here. Client, GTreasury, PNC Bank. Big deal. It says key benefits, ease of implementation, simplified reconciliation, improved cash positioning, and flexible reporting.
Now, imagine driving a car at highway speeds, but your windshield only shows you where you were yesterday. That is how many corporate finance teams operate when making high-stakes liquidity decisions. The traditional cash management workflow is built around a significant time lag. Teams rely on batch-processed end-of-day data to determine exactly how much cash they hold across various accounts. Bridging this gap usually involves heavy operational friction. Finance teams often have to call in technical IT resources to build custom connections, or they spend hours manually remapping spreadsheet data just to see their current standing. Operating with this delay creates two specific blind spots. It traps usable liquidity in unverified accounts, and it increases the risk of late payments to crucial vendors. This gap is closed by the API integration between GTreasury and PNC Bank. It is a direct connection built to remove technical barriers and deliver instantaneous financial visibility. Having your true cash position updated throughout the day changes the role of a Treasury department. They stop performing reactive bookkeeping and start driving proactive financial strategy. Connecting these systems does not require a team of developers. It is a self-service setup that finance teams can complete in just 3 steps. The process begins in the GTreasury dashboard. A client initiates an account information request. The API securely transmits that request to PNC Bank's servers in seconds. PNC retrieves current balances and transaction data, immediately pushing it back to the client. Because this data feed automatically leverages existing user transaction codes for BAI2 and CAMT reporting formats, it is instantly readable by the platform. By automating this continuous loop, finance teams no longer need to manually remap a cash position worksheet or forecast. The reconciliation happens automatically in the background. Real-time data is only half the equation. The same infrastructure allows teams to take immediate action on outbound vendor payments. Instead of logging into separate banking portals, every payment request starts right here, within GTreasury's dedicated payment module. From this hub, instructions route through PNC's specific payment networks, including automated clearinghouse transfer, standard wire, or the real-time payments network. Because immediate payment types like RTP operate 24/7, 365, businesses can send and receive funds instantly, even outside of traditional banking hours. Once the transaction is processed, the system provides a real-time status and audit report directly back to the GTreasury platform. Embedding both the execution and the tracking inside a single platform creates a consolidated audit framework. Your team sees exactly where the money is the moment it moves. When you combine inbound real-time data feeds with outbound instant payments, the daily workflow of a finance team shifts. The hours spent matching transactions across dozens of screens are replaced by automated reporting, all managed from a single interface. Reporting is no longer tied to fixed end-of-month cycles. Teams can run insights on demand or schedule reports so the information is ready for them at the start of each day. This visualization represents the result: granular control over your organization's cash flow. Liquidity decisions are based on the realities of this exact minute, not the close of yesterday's business. This speed directly reduces your risk profile. You can mitigate late vendor payments and improve business relationships because capital moves exactly when it is intended to. GTreasury and PNC Bank provide financial leaders with the clarity to act decisively. Contact your PNC sales team.
All right, guys, listen, you know what? I'm going to continue this in the next video. It is getting a little bit long here. We're 20 minutes. I really appreciate you. If you made it to the end, please hit like, support the content. Let me know if you guys have a question about any of this. It's always an honor to spend this time with you. I am currently in Japan. If you are watching this, I hope you are having a great life. Excited to go to XRP Tokyo. I hope to see some of you there. All right, aloha. Hey everyone, Cryptonaires is back right now. It is free to join. This is my personal community where I'm posting news and information by hour in the community to keep you up to date. If you want to take your education to the next step, this is going to be a great place for you to learn and grow. I'll leave the link down in the description, and I will see you there.